Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're zeroing in on leadership success, especially for women, but we're looking beyond the usual advice.
Absolutely, because
Mm.
the standard story, well, it really hammers home individual confidence, right?
Mm.
That self-belief is the ultimate key.
It is, it's everywhere.
Hmm.
But we've been looking at Helena DeMoinck's work. She's a women's empowerment advocate, transformation guide, author of It's Your Turn. And her work with, top female executives and entrepreneurs really challenges that confidence first idea.
It really does.
Yeah.
Helena makes a strong case that, yes, confidence matters, but sustainable success that's more deeply rooted in connection and community than just relying on yourself.
Right.
She's got some great initiatives, the Boundary Breakers Collective Talk Show, Power Talks, and now this new MasterMind, the 0.5% Alliance, which kind of ties into our chat today.
Exactly. So our goal, our mission for this deep dive is to unpack this confidence mirage, as Helena calls it. Why focusing only on inner confidence can, maybe paradoxically, lead to isolation, and how building intentional communities like masterminds offers a more solid path forward.
A more sustainable path.
Okay, so let's start there. This idea of success leading to isolation,
Right.
it seems counterintuitive, but it comes up a lot for women moving up.
It does. And Helena shares this really vivid story about Sarah. Harvard MBA, director by 35, big corner office.
Yeah.
She has it all on paper.
Right, the dream, supposedly.
But then she closes this huge 8-figure deal, a massive win, and she realizes she's celebrating it completely alone that evening, just her.
Wow. That really hits home, doesn't it? That feeling of reaching the summit and finding nobody there with you.
Exactly. And Helena stresses, Sarah's story isn't an outlier. So many senior women report feeling more isolated as they get more successful.
Which is the paradox, right? You'd think success brings more people, more shared moments.
You would think, and this is something for you listening to think about, does that ring true? Have you seen that or felt that? This isolation, despite the wins, it suggests maybe focusing purely on individual achievement is incomplete.
Yeah, missing a piece. Which leads us right into this confidence mirage concept. Can you break down what Helena really means by that?
Sure. The confidence mirage is basically this dominant narrative that unwavering self-belief is the #1 thing women need for leadership success.
Like a magic bullet.
Kind of. Just believe in yourself or lean in.
Yeah.
The intentions are good. But Helena argues they frame the whole challenge incorrectly.
So it's not saying confidence is bad.
Not at all. Confidence is important, definitely. But it's not the only driver, and maybe not even the primary one for long-term sustainable success.
Okay.
Helena's point is, if we framed leadership hurdles as just internal battles of self-doubt, we miss the vital role of external support, of connection. And ironically, that internal focus can make the isolation worse.
Right, because it puts all the pressure back on the individual to just fix themselves internally.
Exactly, when maybe the solution lies partly outside.
This is fascinating, thinking about where the solitary leader image even came from. Women didn't just decide to go it alone, surely. There's history here.
Oh, absolutely. You have to look back. Think about the first waves of women entering executive roles. These were overwhelmingly male environments.
Okay.
And in those spaces, showing any vulnerability, that could easily be seen as weakness. It could undermine your credibility, your chance to advance.
So to survive and succeed, they almost had to adopt this posture of unshakable strength.
Right.
Total self-reliance.
Pretty much. It fostered this sort of solo warrior archetype.
Yeah.
And even though things have changed, remnants of that pressure linger.
Mm-hmm.
Women in top roles often still feel they need to project constant certainty just to be taken seriously.
And that must take a toll, maintaining that front all the time.
A huge toll. Helena shares this anonymous quote, a senior exec in finance, look incredibly successful, leading a huge division.
Yeah.
But inside, struggling with massive anxiety, stress-related health problems, feeling like a failure. Why? Because she felt she had to handle it all alone, couldn't ask for help.
Wow. That really shows the gap between the external image and the internal reality when connection is missing.
It really does.
So this constant push for individual confidence, even though it sounds empowering, might actually be hiding other critical things.
That's a really key point Helena makes. By focusing so much on fixing individual self-belief, we might ignore, 1, the systemic barriers that still exist,
Sure.
and 2, crucially for today, the sheer power and necessity of real connection, of mutual support.
And the lack of that connection has real downsides for women leaders, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You see it in the data. Burnout rates are significantly higher for women leaders compared to men.
Right.
And as that finance executive story showed, isolation is a big driver of that burnout. Then there's this concept Helena talks about, emotional labor overhead.
Okay, emotional labor overhead. What's that about?
It's the extra mental and emotional energy women often spend just managing how they appear, projecting certainty, suppressing doubts,
Yeah.
basically performing confidence.
Ah, okay. Like stage managing your emotions constantly.
Exactly. And that extra effort, it drains energy that could be going into building real, supportive relationships or, just doing the job.
So you're investing energy in appearing strong rather than building strength through connection.
You got it. Which brings us to what Helena calls the connection revolution.
Okay.
It's this shift in thinking, seeing connection not as just a nice bonus, but as the actual bedrock of sustainable leadership.
So what does that look like, this connection revolution in action? What are the real benefits for women leaders who lean into building networks?
Well, the benefits are pretty clear and becoming more documented. Women with strong intentional networks, they tend to stay in leadership longer, greater longevity.
Okay.
They get promoted more often, report higher job satisfaction, and bounce back faster from setbacks.
That makes sense.
And maybe most importantly, they tackle challenges more courageously because they know they've got backup. They're not alone.
Yeah, having that safety net must make a huge difference. Helena tells a story about a tech exec who joined a MasterMind group. What changed for her?
Her story is really telling. She said joining that group of fellow women leaders was transformative. She realized just how much energy she'd been wasting trying to pretend she had all the answers.
Right, the performance part.
Exactly. And in that safe space where she could be open about challenges and uncertainty, her actual leadership got better. It wasn't about faking it. It was about tapping into the group's collective wisdom.
Which leads us straight to these mastermind communities. Now, lots of people think networking is just, swapping cards at events.
Yeah.
How are masterminds different?
That's a really important difference. Traditional networking can be quite shallow, transactional.
Mm-hmm.
Intentional masterminds are built differently. They focus on creating deep psychological safety, offering structured ongoing support, and enabling real collaboration, often across different industries.
So it's less about collecting contacts and more about building genuine trust, shared understanding.
Precisely. These are spaces where vulnerability isn't a liability, it's actually an asset. Women feel safe to talk about the real stuff, the tough challenges, the fears, the big dreams.
Okay.
And by doing that, they get diverse perspectives, new ideas.
Yeah.
It really sharpens their strategic thinking.
Helena mentions a healthcare executive's experience in her mastermind. What stood out for her?
She said it went way beyond typical professional contacts. These women got her whole journey, the work stuff, the personal stuff.
I mean, the whole picture.
Yeah. And she felt that deep personal support made her braver and smarter in her leadership role than any training course ever did.
Mm-hmm.
It really shows the depth these groups can achieve. It's not superficial.
So we're really talking about rethinking what leadership strength even means, moving away from the lone wolf
That's right.
towards something much more connected, more interdependent.
That's the shift. Recognizing that vulnerability, in the right context, is strength. That long-term success isn't just about individual grit. It needs mutual support.
Mm-hmm.
And that the best problem solving often comes from the collective, not just one person having all the answers.
And this isn't just good for the individual women, right? Helena notes benefits for organizations, too.
Definitely. Companies that actively support connection among their women leaders, they see better retention, more innovation.
Makes sense.
When women feel truly supported and connected, they stick around, and they bring their best, most creative thinking forward. As Alina puts it, the future of leadership isn't isolated confidence, it's connected community.
So for you listening right now, if you've ever felt that isolation creeping in on your leadership path, Helena's perspective is actually really validating.
Yeah.
It might not be a personal failing. It could just be that you're working within an old model that overvalues going it alone.
Exactly. The real message here is that sustainable leadership doesn't come from being an island. It comes from intentionally building and participating in communities where connection fuels growth and resilience.
And that really makes you pause and think, doesn't it? Where do you get that support currently? Is your leadership journey sustainable right now?
Mm-hmm.
Are there gaps? And if there are, maybe looking into something like a mastermind group could be a concrete step towards ending that isolation, building that collective strength.
And Helena's whole philosophy, and It's Your Turn, really backs this up. These communities help women redefine success and step into their power.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the point is powerful. Leadership doesn't have to be lonely. It's richer, braver, and makes a bigger impact when we walk that path together.
So, wrapping up our deep dive today, the big takeaway is this. Confidence, yes, it's valued, but true, sustainable, fulfilling leadership success for women that's deeply tied to intentional connection and community.
Helena Demoink really challenges that old confidence-first script, and she champions connection through her work, like with the 0.5% Alliance MasterMind. It's a needed perspective.
Definitely. We hope this gives you some food for thought about the role connection plays or could play in your own journey.
And maybe leaves you with this question to ponder. How might intentionally building deeper connections actually reshape your whole approach to leadership and even change how you experience success itself?